Morning. I'm Mr. Kaden. In his class, I'm Tech Sergeant Michael Keeler. I've been in the Air Force about 13 years, and I'm fixing to basically talk to you about the Air Force. And I'm stationed here at Udeid Air Base in Qatar. It's just east of Saudi Arabia. What you have behind me is what we call boot hill. Basically, you see the big old huge pile of boots. What happens is airmen that are assigned here, can you hear me okay? What happens is airmen that are assigned here, once their year tour is done, or 4 months or 6 months, whatever their tour duty here is, once their tour is done, they throw their boots on this big pile. And it's an old wives' tale, if you will, that they won't ever come back here. The mission of the Air Force is obviously to fly, fight, and win. We have all 4 branches of service here: Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marines. We also have the British Air Force assigned here. We're basically a central point for the East. Everyone that flies from the States or anywhere around the world comes to this location first. They usually stay a couple of weeks and then they go on to their forward location. This is an active combat zone. We fuel combat ready, basically aircraft that go and drop bombs downrange. And then we can walk over here to this R11.
There is lightning within 5 nautical miles. There is lightning within 5 nautical miles.
What you just heard is what we call an all call from the giant voice. There's basically a thunderstorm coming in. What we have behind me, Caden, if you want to point to the R12, this is an R12. It's basically a hydrant service vehicle. Again, like I told you at the beginning, my job is fuels, and we're responsible for fuels for the entire base. For airplanes, vehicles, any kind of ground fuel, diesel, anything like that, we're obviously responsible for it. This vehicle actually hooks up to a pit in the ground. The big nozzle right here, what we call a moose head, actually hooks up into a pit in the ground and basically is supplied through underground piping basically from a huge tank. What that does is you can pump mass quantities of gasoline. When we get over to the R11, then I'm going to talk about that truck only holds 6,000 gallons. Basically, this is like an unlimited supply depending on what aircraft that you're pumping. It pumps about 750 gallons a minute is depending on the type of system that you're in. You want to walk over here? We'll talk about the R11. This is what we call an R11 refueler. Again, this tank holds 6,000 gallons. It's basically used to pump anything. You can pump anything that requires what we call a single point receptacle. Once you're out of the 6,000 gallons, then we have to basically go to a storage unit and then refill that truck. Caden, if you point to the green truck, it's the exact same truck. We have green ones and obviously this tan one assigned here. Now we'll talk about basically the aircraft that are assigned here, and if you pan over to your right, you can see the tails of the J-Stars. We'll talk about that one first. It's your white tails. They're also known as the E8C. Your J-Star stands for Joint Surveillance Target Attack Radar System. It's basically a radar jammer. That specific plane holds 336,000 pounds of fuel. What does that mean to you as a 10-year-old kid? The Air Force does everything in pounds. If you convert that, 6.7 pounds equals 1 gallon. So if you do the math, 336,000 divided by 6.7, you come out to about 51,000 gallons. And that's what that airplane holds. So you can do the math, how many trucks that would take to actually fuel that aircraft. Just past those J-Stars, what we call the KC-135 straddle tanker. Caden, if you want to point to that. Again, that plane is an in-air refueler. It can refuel any type of aircraft that doesn't have ample quality of fuel to basically fly where it needs to go. So you have a picture of that in-air refueler. It has just a nozzle that extends from the rear of the plane. Your F-16s, F-35s, anything will fly up behind that, connect to that nozzle, and that plane will refuel while they're in flight. That plane itself holds 210,000 pounds of fuel, so if you do the math, that'll be 31,300 gallons. The next plane we have here, which are not on the ramp over there, is what we call a C-17 Globemaster. If you want to point to that, Mr. Kaden, that's basically just a cargo plane. It can actually hold 10 of these trucks in the belly of that plane. It carries cargo all around the world. It's also a personnel carrier if they need it to be. That plane itself holds 240,000 pounds of fuel, so if you do the math, that comes out to about 35,000 gallons. The next plane we have assigned here is a C-130 Hercules. It's also a cargo plane. You'll see it, it has basically props on it instead of an actual jet engine. Again, it's a cargo plane, but it's the benefit to that plane, it can't carry as much and it doesn't carry as much fuel, but it lands and takes off on shorter runways. It only holds about 175,000 pounds of fuel. Then again, if you do the math, it comes out to about 26,000 gallons. Probably the best plane of all, basically the most interesting, if you will. Kate, if you want to point to that, it's the plane with basically the bomb load around it. That's called the B-1 Lancer or the B-1 Bomber. It's a supersonic long-range bomber. Goes about 852 miles an hour. That plane, again, holds 239,000 gallons. And again, if you do the math, it's about 35,000 actual gallons, or excuse me, 239,000 pounds. And then if you do the math, it comes out to about 35,000 gallons. But the really cool thing about it, it holds 84 500-pound bombs. You do the math on that, it comes out to about 48,000 pounds just in armament alone. So basically, we talked about a couple of refuelers here we have here. We talked about Boot Hill. I showed you some aircraft that we have assigned here. You guys are maybe out and wondering, hey, what can I do to actually get in the Air Force? Well, number one, you have to stay in school. We don't accept a GED. You have to actually get a high school diploma, or if you want to go further, to get an actual degree. If you get your high school diploma, you can go in what we call enlisted, which is what I am. And if you end up going to further your education and going to college, you can come in as an officer. But if you guys are interested in that, obviously your recruiter will talk to you about that. You have to stay out of trouble. You can't even so much get a speeding ticket. Speeding ticket, something very simple, maybe underage drinking. None of that stuff can happen. They definitely will not let you in the Air Force for sure. Another thing you're maybe wondering, well, hey, how much does Sergeant Keeler make? I've been in about 13 years, and my salary is about $72,000 a year is what I make. Just, you know, give or take. So maybe basically some exciting stuff for you guys. It was brought up to me, a very good point. I don't know if you guys have seen, our unmanned aerial vehicles are getting real popular right now. There's going to be about 30,000 of them in flight, and those are controlled from the ground. So if you guys are playing video games, that develops your hand-eye coordination. So keep playing your video games. Get that hand-eye coordination down, because you never know, if you join the Air Force, you may be one of those unmanned aerial vehicle operators from the ground with basically just a remote control. So you ask, how many jobs do we have in the Air Force? We have 164 different career fields. If you think of a job that we have, we probably have it. But like I said, keep in mind, you have to stay out of trouble. You can't get in, or you have to finish school and stay out of trouble. Then you have to think, basically only 0.001 of the population is actually military. So it's a very, very select few that actually do end up graduating high school or college and then coming on into the Air Force. So just in recap, we talked about the mission here at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. We talked about fuel loads, which is my job. We handle everything fuel related on the base. That's exactly what I've done since 1993, and I absolutely love it. You're going to see an article about my second job. This is just a reserve job for me. You're going to see an article about my second job. I worked in the city of Phoenix as a police officer, and Kaden, I'm sure, will tell you all about that. So I hope you guys had a good time. You got to see a couple trucks. You saw some pretty cool planes. I hope you enjoyed it. Good luck. Stay in school. Finish school. And Kaden, I love you, buddy. And I'll see you soon.